What's not to love about Aaron Rodgers? His arm, his playmaking, his celebrations. He's a guaranteed future first ballot Hall of Famer with some of the most impressive accolades. A Super Bowl MVP, 4-time league MVP, all-time leader in regular season passer rating, highest career touchdown to interception ratio, lowest career interception percentage. On top of that, he's one of, if not the best quarterback to ever throw a football. As Tom Brady himself put it, he's everything you'd want in a quarterback. However, one glaring hole in his resume that critics point to is the fact that he only won one Super Bowl and never even made it back to the big game, despite a Hall of Fame career. In this video, we're going to look at all 11 of his playoff losses as a starter, and I'm going to rank them by how much I blame him individually. We'll start with the most blame and work our way down to the least amount of blame because, yes, I'm a biased Packer fan, but I strongly believe throughout his postseason career, a lot of it has been plagued by bad luck that he had no control over. You're free to disagree, and I'd love to hear your input in the comments. With all that said though, let's get into it. Number 1, 2014 NFC Championship versus Seattle. Now it may sound a little bit crazy for me to put this at number 1, and I wouldn't blame you if you don't have this. As Rodgers said, there were about 8 crazy fluky plays that had about a 1% chance, probably much less, in culminating into the sequence that eventually unfolded to lose the Packers this game, many of which weren't even Rodgers' fault. To name a few, there's the fake field goal touchdown pass from John Ryan to make it 16-7 instead of 16-3. There's Morgan Burnett sliding at midfield after an interception with a lot more room to run. Who can forget Brandon Bostic? But also who can forget the crazy 2-point conversion that gave Seattle a 3-point lead instead of a 1-point lead, making what would have been a game-winning kick by Mason Crosby to send Green Bay to the Super Bowl a game-tying kick instead, in a game that Green Bay eventually lost. However, it still was a bad showing from Rodgers in this game, and if he had played even slightly better, there is no doubt in my mind that Green Bay wins this game like they obviously should have. Rodgers had 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions. With the touchdown, 1 isn't bad, but it should have been more. Packers in total had 1 touchdown and 5 field goals. For reference, the Seahawks, even with how badly they played, only scored touchdowns. On the Packers' first drive, Rodgers threw a long pass intended for Davante Adams that was intercepted by Richard Sherman in the back of the end zone. The first 2 scoring drives for Green Bay were what really should have resulted in touchdowns. The first started with very good field position after Clinton Dix picked off Russell Wilson right after Aaron Rodgers' interception. It stalled out at the 1-yard line. The second drive also started with tremendously good field position after Seattle fumbled the kickoff. That drive also stalled out at the 1-yard line. With both those drives, Green Bay settled for field goals instead of touchdowns, and I also partially blame Mike McCarthy for not going for it either of those times. But along with them not capitalizing, Rodgers himself did not have a good day. With about 5 minutes left in the first half, Rodgers had his second interception, where he quite inexplicably threw it directly to the Seattle defender with no eligible receiver in the vicinity, and this was in Seattle territory, making it a big missed opportunity to get more points on the board heading into the half. And in the second half, Green Bay would only get 6 points. There's a lot of talk about how Rodgers did not have enough defensive help throughout his playoff career, and I think that's totally true. But here, that's absolutely not the case. Green Bay's defense and special teams forced 5 turnovers, 1 aforementioned fumble, and 4 interceptions. Rodgers, I think, let his team down, and this is the loss I give him the most blame for. However, I still very much acknowledge the factors outside of his control, as well as him leading a game-tying drive only to never touch the ball again because he lost a coin toss. I hope you're starting to see a pattern here. Number 2, 2021 NFC Divisional versus San Francisco. This is probably the second most heartbreaking playoff loss in the Rodgers era. We all know number 1. It started off well with a touchdown on the first drive. What really flipped the switch though was Mercedes Lewis fumbling on the next offensive drive. However, this game is again an exception to Green Bay's defensive woes during the Rodgers era because the defense played incredibly well, only allowing 6 points. The 49ers' only touchdown was from a blocked punt. Their interception off Jimmy G was actually in the red zone as well, so they played more than well enough to win. I actually considered putting this at number 1, but I ultimately decided against it because Rodgers did not have any turnovers in this game. He had 0 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He led a touchdown drive, and was probably going to lead another one before the fumble. However, that fumble does not excuse the total no-show that the Packers offense had almost the entire game afterwards. There were moments, such as the drive right before halftime, where Rodgers had a wide open dot to Aaron Jones, and Jones inexplicably turned inward and got tackled. Now, side note, I'm not saying Jones would have scored, but he could have gotten a lot more yards, and that probably would have helped because the 49ers blocked the field goal right after. The Packers did in the second half get a field goal on the board to go up 7. Quite similar to the Packers-Browns game this past season, it was very shaky, but I still felt we would win the entire time. At least I felt that way before all hell broke loose. The aforementioned blocked punt happened soon after, which tied the game up at 10. Rodgers on the next drive would keep targeting Devontae, including a third down contested ball when he had a wide open Allen Lazard. The rest of the game was bad, but this drive in particular he was the opposite of clutch, and it's on him. He would never see the ball again. The defense cracked for only the second time the entire game, finally allowing the 49ers deep enough into field goal range to kick the game-winning field goal and seal the win 13-10. This would also be Rodgers' final playoff game as a Packer. Number 3, 2025 AFC Wildcard versus Houston. This was his first and last playoff game in the AFC, and it was, for all intents and purposes, a complete beatdown. It really speaks to how difficult it was to decide the order of the middle of this list. For one, Rodgers went up against an incredible defense in the Houston Texans. They forced 3 fumbles, one of them was lost on an Aaron Rodgers strip sack / scoop and score, and then obviously everyone joked about how Aaron Rodgers' likely final throw of his very efficient career was a pick 6. However, the game really got out of hand late in the fourth quarter. For a big part of the game, it was 7-6 Texans. The Steelers started off the game with a field goal. CJ Stroud threw his only touchdown of the game. Then the Steelers got another field goal before halftime. They would go completely scoreless in the second half, and even with DK back from suspension, the offense literally could not get anything going to pull ahead. Only then, the downward spiral happened, starting with a Houston field goal, but then a Woody Marks rushing touchdown, the scoop and score, and finally the pick 6. Aaron definitely doesn't deserve all the blame, and I understand he went up against a legendary defense, but I think too many drives stalled out to ignore his performance. Number 4, 2013 NFC Wildcard versus San Francisco. Unlike the year before, these two teams got to meet up in Lambeau instead of Candlestick, and it was much closer. Rodgers himself had 1 touchdown and 0 interceptions, so he had no turnovers, but again, he could have also put up more points. After a Green Bay punt to start off the game, San Fran got a field goal. The same sequence of events repeated, and so at the end of the first, it was 6-0 49ers. Kaepernick, when he got the ball back for the third time, however, he threw a pick, and the Packers finally responded with a Rodgers touchdown to Jordy Nelson, my favorite combo, to take the lead. However, the very next drive, Kaepernick would rush for 42 yards to get to the Green Bay 13 before Frank Gore punched it in to retake the lead. Green Bay ended the half with a field goal and went into the locker room only down 3. The third quarter merely saw a bunch of punts, but on the first drive to start the fourth, only down 3 at the San Fran 30, Green Bay decided to gamble, and Rodgers had a clutch 4th and 2 conversion to Randall Cobb, and they eventually scored to go up 17-13, but the defense finally cracked again, allowing a 33-yard run from Kaepernick and a 28-yard touchdown pass to Vernon Davis. Aaron Rodgers was clutch on his part, leading the offense 61 yards to get a game-tying field goal. They could have definitely scored a touchdown, but Rodgers still did what he needed to do to keep the game in the balance. He would never get to touch the ball again, however, recurring theme, because even with 5 whole minutes left, San Fran led a long, elaborate drive that got them all the way to the Green Bay 17. This drive was characterized by an egregious dropped interception by Micah Hyde in San Fran territory, as well as, you guessed it, a Kaepernick scramble on 3rd and 8 for 11 yards with a little over a minute left in the game. This game, in my opinion, was lost because of missed opportunities, whether that be punts or field goals. On the defensive part, the defense did not do too badly in this game, they just cracked at the worst possible moments. I've said before that it is quite difficult to make this list because so many games could go either way depending on anyone's interpretation. However, I put this at number 4 because, quite frankly, Rodgers could have put more points on the board, especially in a 23-20 loss. However, I hope you're starting to see the pattern yet again, because the defense cracked at the worst possible moments, and there were many factors outside of Rodgers' control. Number 5, 2011 NFC Divisional versus New York. Before 2020 and 2021, this is probably what most Packer fans would point to as the second most heartbreaking playoff loss in the Rodgers era. We were the defending Super Bowl champions and only lost 1 game that entire season prior to the playoffs. It looked like we were going to be a genuine dynasty, and this really started the whole downward spiral of playoff heartbreak that Packer fans are very much used to by now. In week 2 of the 2011 season, Nick Collins went down with a career-ending injury. This is the same guy who got a pick 6 in the Super Bowl, and the lack of his presence had to have been felt that day. The two teams had also met in the regular season in the Meadowlands, where Rodgers had to absolutely bail his defense out in a 38-35 win. In this game, the two teams exchanged field goals, but then Eli Manning came roaring with a 66-yard touchdown pass to Hakeem Nicks. Rodgers himself threw a touchdown to tie it up, before New York got another field goal. Not bad at first, looking like the Packers could keep it close and hold their own. The Giants even missed a field goal right after. And even though the Packers had to punt, Eli Manning threw a pick on the very next drive. However, John Kuhn, I love the man, but he screwed up and fumbled. Opposite of 5 years later, Rodgers would actually be on the receiving end of a Hail Mary touchdown before halftime against the Giants in Lambeau Field. I think at that moment, the Giants gained all their mojo and the Packer spirit was crushed. Green Bay started off the second half with a strip sack fumble lost. To be fair, they did get another field goal to cut the lead to 7 in what was the only score by either team in the third quarter. However, in the fourth quarter, it all turned to shit. After Rodgers was sacked on 4th down in Giants territory, the G-men got another field goal on the board. Ryan Grant fumbled. New York took advantage of a short field after that and extended the lead to 17. Rodgers threw a touchdown with 5 minutes left, but the Giants answered right back to make the score 37-20. Rodgers basically threw an interception for shits and giggles, and that was the game. Overall, there were several opportunities for Rodgers and the offense to break away, which is why this game is on the low end of the top half. But still, there were multiple factors outside of Rodgers' control that influenced this game. I mean, hell, Rodgers led the Packers in rushing yards with 66, out-rushing the Giants' leading rusher Ahmad Bradshaw by 3 yards. So even though this is slightly above the middle, again, I know I'm getting redundant, but I hope you're starting to see what I'm trying to convey. Number 6, 2012 NFC Divisional versus San Francisco. Now we're in the exact middle of the list, but it's already starting to get crazy because Rodgers would have genuinely had to play the game of his life to pull away or make it closer. Now shockingly, especially in hindsight, Green Bay got out to a 7-0 start with a pick 6 by Sam Shields, a bit out of the ordinary for the defenses Rodgers had throughout his career. The Packers even rushed for a touchdown to go up 14-7. You would think they could have maybe kept their lead or hopefully extended it. However, the defense would basically collapse after this. On top of that, Green Bay muffed a punt. Special teams is consistent at least, before Kaepernick threw a touchdown to tie it up. Rodgers, and this is where the criticism is, threw an interception, and San Fran took advantage and scored another touchdown. But Rodgers then had a 20-yard touchdown to James Jones to tie it up once again. The Niners got a field goal to end the half. After an exchange of punts, Green Bay tied it up with a field goal of their own. However, Kaepernick, a very mobile quarterback, absolutely torched the Green Bay defense with a 56-yard touchdown run. Green Bay punted before Frank Gore rushed it in. They punted again before San Fran punched it in one last time on a 99-yard touchdown drive, which included both a 16-yard Kaepernick rush and a 26-yard Frank Gore rush to go up 45-24. Green Bay got one last garbage time touchdown, but the game was already over. They just lost by 14 instead of 21. This is in the exact middle of the list because on one hand, there were many punts and one pick. On the other hand, the defense allowed 45 points. Number 7, 2016 NFC Championship versus Atlanta. It's a little bit surprising how bad this beatdown of a game was, given when the two teams had met in the regular season in the same venue, the Falcons barely held on 33-32. But once again, Rodgers would have had to play the game of his life to even make it close. Green Bay's defense, especially Ladarius Gunter, was incredibly inept and could not stop a freaking nosebleed. Now in the beginning of the game, Green Bay had several chances to keep the game close and not let it get out of hand. After the Falcons scored a touchdown, Mason Crosby missed a field goal. After Atlanta got a field goal, Green Bay once again got into enemy territory, but then Aaron Ripkowski fumbled at the 11-yard line. Only then did the game start to get out of hand as Atlanta scored to go up 17-0. After an exchange of punts, Rodgers had an arm punt interception. He had 3 touchdowns, but let's be honest, they were all in garbage time. Kind of like what Tom Brady's performance in Super Bowl 51 would have been if Atlanta had not been so utterly stupid and actually run the ball. But I digress. In this game, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones went off, and the Falcons just heavily outclassed us. That's it. Number 8, 2015 NFC Divisional versus Arizona. This game is kind of sandwiched between games where Rodgers would have had to play the game of his life to even make it close. This could have been higher on the list rather than lower. further showing the ambiguity of his playoff losses. One thing I want to stress first off, because it's the first thing my dad said on the phone the day after the game, it's that Carson Palmer played horribly. That same year in the regular season, the Cardinals had thrashed the Packers 38-8, a big reason the Packers eventually lost the NFC North to the Vikings. Much like the year before, the Packers squandered a golden opportunity to upset a team in the playoffs that they had gotten curb stomped by in the regular season in the same venue. Carson Palmer did have 3 touchdowns, but to add to his 2 picks, 2 of these touchdowns were incredibly fluky. The first of these 2 was deflected off the arm of a Packers defender at the goal line and caught in the end zone. The final touchdown was set up by a screen to Larry Fitzgerald in OT, where he completely torched the defense and got like 70 yak. Then, after that, he did a shovel pass to Fitzgerald at the 5 to win the game. Rodgers on his end had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. To start with the criticism, the Packers defense got 2 picks, and there were several opportunities, up 13-7 and 13-10, where the Packers completely failed to capitalize. However, onto the stuff that is not Rodgers' fault. There are the 2 fluky touchdowns I just mentioned, but literally who doesn't know by now about the sequence of events after Rodgers got the ball down 20-13 with 2 minutes left. After getting sacked on like 3rd and 15 at the 1-yard line, he unleashes a ball rolling out to his left in the end zone to Jeff Janis. Then not even the first legendary Hail Mary of his career, let alone that season. The final play of regulation with Marcus Golden in his face. He heaves it up and it's caught again by Jeff Janis. Contested by Patrick Peterson. But you know the worst part about it? That was the last time Rodgers would get to touch the ball that game, because he lost the coin toss. And remember, it took the NFL so damn long to change these clearly stupid and unfair overtime rules. So that fluky drive by Arizona we just talked about won them the game. Listen to me very clearly when I say this. This shit does not happen to Tom Brady. Number 9, 2019 NFC Championship versus San Francisco. The previous game was sandwiched, like I said, but even despite the ambiguity, there's no way in hell this game is higher on the list. The 49ers tore Green Bay's defense a new asshole, as the YouTuber Barry McCockiner put it, and yes, I am aware of the wordplay. Rodgers once again would have had to play the game of his life to even make it close. The score at halftime was 27-0 San Francisco. Rodgers had 2 interceptions, one of them an arm punt in desperation. He had 2 touchdowns, but both of them were pretty much in garbage time. I'm not saying Rodgers had a great game, even an above average game, but he was not at all the reason they lost this. It essentially was over before it even started. I know I'm not doing as much of a recap in this one, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Number 10, 2020 NFC Championship versus Tampa Bay. Oh, this one grinds my gears. Even though it's second on the list, it's first in terms of how much it pissed me off and still pisses me off. First of all, screw Kevin King. Bro let up 2 touchdowns solely because of his absolute scrubbiness. The first one off a comically mistimed jump, which maybe could have resulted in an interception, and then the infamous Hail Mary, which actually came the play right after Will Redmond dropped a gimme interception off a Brady YOLO ball. Literally, what other quarterback could get away with this? Despite what morons might say, Aaron Rodgers was great in this game. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, which happened on a missed defensive holding on Sean Murphy-Bunting. There were several egregious drops as well, such as Devontae Adams in the end zone on a field goal drive, and a drop by Allen Lazard on a 2-point conversion. Aaron Jones also fumbled in the 3rd quarter down 21-10, which allowed Brady to take advantage of a short field to go up 18, because of course he did. Even still, Rodgers rallied back despite various screw-ups from his teammates. I will admit he could have run it on that 3rd and goal down 8, but I don't think he was guaranteed to have scored if he did. Another of the few criticisms is that Brady threw 3 interceptions in the second half. Also, this is a real stat. Brady has a higher win percentage in the postseason throwing 3+ picks than Rodgers does throwing 3 or more touchdowns. GOAT stuff, am I right? But the Packers could not take advantage. But finally, on 3rd down, Brady airmailed a wide receiver who was not touched at all by Kevin King. And the blind, or biased, however you want to view it, ref was right in front of them, and he still threw the flag after the receiver flopped like a little bitch. Fuck Tom Brady. I know in hindsight 2021 was probably a better chance to win the Super Bowl, but 2020 really felt like Rodgers was finally going to get back to the big game, and once again, because of his teammates, he wasn't able to. Number 11, 2009 NFC Wildcard versus Arizona. This was Rodgers' first playoff game as a starter, very much foreshadowing of his playoff career. As the years went by, the 2010 Super Bowl run started to look more like an exception than the standard, given it was one of the only times he had a competent defense. Rodgers had 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. He's not completely blameless. He threw a pick on the first drive, and in overtime missed a wide open Greg Jennings on the first play that would have absolutely sealed the game. But Jesus Christ, the most points ever scored in an NFL playoff game by both teams to this day. Rodgers overcame a 21-point deficit, did all this, and he still lost? Also, that was an obvious missed face mask on the final play. Most quarterbacks put up that kind of performance, it's unfathomable that they lose. But this is what a terrible defense gets you. Alright, we have made it to the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What did you agree with? What did you disagree with? I wanted to make this video partially because of Jordan Love and how he put up a 4-touchdown, 0-interception performance that was utterly wasted in a 31-27 loss to the Chicago Bears of all teams. Very reminiscent of what I'm talking about here with Rodgers. But also, Rodgers himself has gotten the label of underperformer, despite winning a Super Bowl and all these accolades. But he is a top 5 quarterback of all time, and so there's no doubt for me that in an even slightly better system, he could have won at least 3 Super Bowls. Kind of like the career Patrick Mahomes is having. However, even with all this, I gotta remind myself he was still able to win a Super Bowl, even if it was only once, and that's something they can never take away.